Welcome to GameInsight's World Cup Breakdown, Day 2, with myself, Jesse Edge, and John Wall, the assistant coach of the Jamaican national team. Good to have you, John.
As always, Jesse.
As always. What do you got to show us today?
Big yesterday, sort of, but we're kind of still shell-shocked from the game that just happened. Saudi versus Argentina. We're not going to talk about that today.
But crazy.
Yeah, I'm blown away.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is actually England versus Iran. Obviously, there was a lot of things going on that we obviously were aware of. What Iran is going through right now in terms of state. The players are representing both their families and obviously at the same time representing a nation that not always are representing their thoughts and their opinions. So, but we have to stick to football, obviously. And yesterday, Jude Bellingham has been great so far for Dortmund this season. But it's good for him to make an entry into the World Cup too.
Yeah, I think he's increased his price a few million, right?
Yeah, probably, and that's usually what happens. But what a player, and obviously he's going to be. And the fact that his age is what it is, it's even more interesting.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And talking about the England game as well, England off to a very strong start in the tournament after having not the most impressive really build-up to the competition.
No, it's been 6 straight non-winning games.
Yep.
Obviously dropping out of the conference, Nations League.
Struggled to score goals as well.
Yeah, and hey, sometimes based on Argentina, 36 games without loss heading in, it's not always the lead up that leads to a great World Cup. Sometimes you might have to have some troubles to fine-tune things. Right?
You're absolutely right. And they did come out on fire yesterday. They came out roaring.
It took them some time to get cracking, really. But what you have to bear in mind, obviously with those extra minutes right now, what FIFA is applying, when it becomes more and more effective time. Obviously, there are instruments of time wasting still. But in this case, the goalkeeper went out. Concussion, shouldn't be playing on. I think that was a bad call from the doctors. But there's a lot of tradition on players want to continue to play.
Especially in the biggest tournament in the world, of course. So it's obviously a very difficult situation, but it has to be taken out of the players' hands. It was a big collision there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was frankly scary to watch, and that he continued on was not the nicest thing, really.
No. And he made the right call to sit down and get out of the game.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're looking at England that possessed a lot, obviously, but especially looking at this lead up to the goal where we highlighted a couple of players. Obviously, you have a lot of density around the ball, and especially leading up from line 1, line 2, and then line 3, and how they are working with the up, back, out, sort of, and how they can use that momentum to get forward and eventually getting into the box. You can see the mister here, that's where Jude Bellingham is. He's pretty high up, but he's playing as an 8. And he's operating on a lot of space. That's part of his forte. But leading up to that pass, that up, back, out, even though it's dense with a lot of opponents, how you can find the highest player in that game situation, it's pretty impressive.
So it translates a little bit to what we were seeing yesterday in the Ecuadorian game.
Yeah.
2 days ago, sorry.
It goes pretty quick. When you're in the World Cup stage, you're feeling it. I know. So should we let it rip a bit so we can have a look? So looking at the space is pretty tight, but anyways, trying to find that pass back and then out, and then moving forward from that point, looking at first pass, up, back, and then out, and almost in the same moment you're out and there's a cross coming in.
Yeah, look at the space he manages to find in the middle there.
Yeah, because the first line, defensive line, is obviously always going to try to protect the line behind them. They're dropping off, but that's where you find the gaps. And his run in and the space created for him is pretty great. And especially the header, moving in, timing it pretty well, and then getting it at the far post, not the front one.
Yeah, what a header. And his first goal for England as well, actually.
Yeah, it was. And what a way to do it, to break the stalemate, getting the first 1-0 in, and eventually, as we all know now, a 6-2 victory. You cannot talk that away in any kind of way.
Absolutely. Does that put England as big contenders here for the World Cup, do you think?
I think part of, I'm not sure how this is going to serve the group, and especially the public, the media, because they're all World Cup winners after the first game, right? And the audience becomes like that. Hopefully, Southgate and his team can treat it and try to base it a little bit more, keep it a little bit more sounded. I think, but overall, it's not bad. But there are circumstances for the Iranian team, and they're a whole lot better than the result was yesterday. Yeah. I know the expected goals ratio was a lot lower than how it became 6-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think England had like 2.75 expected goals, but hitting 6, that doesn't always happen.
No. And then over to Iran then, what can they do to improve in the next games coming up? Is it to reset again, get back to the basics, or what have you seen in the game that they can really improve on in the games coming up?
I think overall, they're mainly their offensive line, their attacking players have been pretty fairly consistent. I think Carlos Queiroz had to shuffle a bit with their back line and bring in a couple other players that haven't played too much. I think the more days together that they get is going to improve their overall game.
Yeah.
But I think setting a really basic structure for them, or a game plan that they manage to actually stay in the game as long as possible, instead of trying to take the initiative too much. I think that's going to serve them a whole lot better. But I'm going to be fair and say I don't want to get into too much assumptions, because I think their job right now has a lot of dimensions to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to close out really quickly, because we don't have any clips of the other two games that went on, but Netherlands, Senegal, and Wales versus the USA, of course. Do you have any comments on those two games?
I think Netherlands, Senegal was probably the best game yesterday.
Yep.
I think the first half was really a good battle. I think Cissé proved to be a pretty astute tactician. But Van Gaal is the master of World Cups, I would say, when it comes to applying a different way or restructure things during in-game. He's really good at that. I think there's still things that needs to be fine-tuned overall. I think there's too much ball carrying from De Jong that perhaps is not necessary the whole time. But all in all, a really good game. Between probably two favorites in that group.
Yeah, and especially with Senegal, their star man out of the competition. Very sad to see, obviously.
Yeah.
But they were very good, actually. Two really defensive kind of, not out-and-out errors, but two lacks in concentration, let's say. And they didn't really deserve to go 2 down, really. It was a great game, as you said, very competitive.
I don't even count the 2-0. It was a 1-0 win for me, but for the record, it is 2-0. But they were pushing forward. Things happen on a transitional thing. All in all, they should be pleased.
Yeah, and the last game as well of the day, the States came out firing with a very strong first half, I must say, but it's the Welsh heart. They couldn't kind of break them down. Wales weren't going anywhere, and they came back with obviously their star man who's had an unbelievable career, potentially his last World Cup, dragging them back and scoring the penalty for the 1-1.
Yeah, it's a game of two faces, really, but I think bringing in Kiefer Moore was kind of a good thing overall to set a different tone to it. Someone who can hold up the ball. He's 195, so he's one piece to really put in on the chessboard.
He is a big boy.
He is, and but overall that changed. I think the application of trying to be more transitional was not bad, but Page made adjustments accordingly, and I think that shuffled a little bit. But they're strong on set pieces. They're hard to break down, and they're always going to stay in the game. So, U.S., I'm not sure if they should have done something else. I think overall, putting Pulisic in good situations to drag players out or through or whatever it might be it's a good application. I think the overall, what they're lacking, yes, but the overall average age of that U.S. squad is low. I think they're actually doing the right things right now. This is not the time where they should win, even though in the U.S. everyone wants to win the whole time. But based on the squad structure and the players that they selected, they're going to be more peaking at 2026.
Yeah, they do have some good young players coming through, and one of them being Weah, of course, with his goal, obviously carrying the big last name that he's got. It was a great run and a fantastic finish as well.
It was, I think, but overall, I think best players were the central mids. I think that's where the U.S. has probably the most where they can build on. With Musa, McKennie, and Adams, they're really below peak age. So they hopefully, if they can continue what they are right now, they're just going to get better. But playing with a single striker system and by trying to impose like a more general 4-3-3 for everyone, that can be a deficient when it comes to player development. I think developing at a youth level with more two-striker system is going to bring more potential strikers into the system and the pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what they need.
Absolutely. Do you think maybe lack of game fitness has been an issue there for the United States, maybe obviously in the second half, because a lot of their players haven't been playing so regularly, with Dest, of course, McKennie, as well as Pulisic as well? Do you think that could be something?
But then yet again, you look at Gareth Bale, that his past 3 years, he's almost playing equal as much in the national team. And I think it's more about not the minutes in itself, but at the right minutes and how you can still produce results with the minutes that you have. I think it's more that kind of thing than actually playing on regular. But yeah, sure. A whole lot better if you have consistent players playing over 2,500, 3,000 minutes every year.
And that's what you want, of course, as well.
Of course. But if US keeps producing, getting players into Champions League clubs, they're going to be a powerhouse eventually.
They sure are. They sure are. Well, thank you very much for the analysis today, John.
As always, my man.
And if you like this type of content, please subscribe to our channels and like this video.
See you later.
Good.